The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
Kev, with any luck, as our wonderful audience are listening to this, you should be going through this.
Anybody travelling with children, we hate you.
Actually, no, you'll be there. So, actually, you should be listening to this. They're a bit loud.
What's that? I can't hear it.
They're crickets.
We don't have crickets, we have cicadas.
Oh, same sort of thing, just different language.
Cicadas are like cricket-eating beasts.
Are they? They're not. Didn't he have a hit, John Cicada? Haven't we been through this one before?
He had several hits.
What do you mean they're insect-eating beasts? What size are they?
Oh, they're huge. They're the size of a bird.
What? No.
Yeah, easily. That's why they're so noisy. There's actually only one in each, like one every kilometre. That's why they make so much noise.
Yeah. There is
Some of them are as big as cats.
No, don't be daft. Yeah, you do have scorpions, because I know in the past, you still have to shake your shoes out in the morning, don't you?
Scorpions, tarantulas, funnel web spiders in that area. Yeah. I've never seen a funnel web, but I've seen several tarantulas and scorpions, yeah.
What, around the pool?
Spiders around the pool. There was a snake in the pool. The Gemma woke up one day with a scorpion on her chest.
No. Oh.
Only little ones. I mean, they'd probably potentially kill a cat or a cicada, but they'd hurt.
All the same, what did Gemma say as she woke from her pleasant holiday-fueled slumber to find a cat-eating beast on her chest?
She screamed, got up, flicked it off, and then we all chased it around the room and hit it with a frying pan.
Mullins, come here!
The FujiCast.
Were you to blame? Did you get the blame anyway?
Probably. Yeah.
You left the window open. You left the door open. Yeah, it's your very presence. Well, here we go. This is the last monthly one until we go bi-monthly. Just to remind you what that means, Kev, because you got it slightly wrong on the FujiCast.
Is it bi-monthly or bi-weekly?
No, it's bi-monthly. Bi-weekly will be twice a week, Kev.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, bi-monthly is every other week.
Twice a week. What happens when there's 5 weeks in a month? What do you do then?
Well, yeah, it's sort of flip-flops. It's just every other week, really, isn't it? Is there just every other week? That's the way to think about it, Kev.
Bi-monthly and a bit.
Yeah,
bi-monthly
0.5, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the FujiCast. It's a August summer show, and in the past, of course, we've done this show from Kev's base I haven't. He has in Spain, but this year you're travelling with absolutely no kit at all, so we can't even record one while you're away, can we? Because you've decided not to take any baggage of any kind.
I've packed. I have a pair of underpants, a pair of flip-flops, and an X100V.
Is that it?
Yep.
Oh, okay. What are you going to do when you get there? You're just going to fester?
Well, I got clothes out there.
Have you?
Right. Yeah. Hopefully this will fit me. That's it. You just wear a pair of shorts. You don't want to be wearing anything else.
You're going to be one of those. Really annoying passengers that just gets off. Waltzes through the first one through passport, then the first one through baggage reclaim because you have no baggage. Best way to fly.
Fingers crossed. All the horror stories we all hear at the minute, but hopefully it's all good.
I worked with a broadcaster who worked in the very same way. He took himself. It was a pair of trousers, spare pair of trousers, spare pair of pants, socks, and that was it. And then he just took his small little cassette interview recorder.
I'm not taking socks.
He just not taking socks. Space. Well, that's true. You don't need them where you're going. Well, welcome to the FujiCast. Usually over that music, we say we've got lots coming up today, answering your questions on Facebook and, of course, through email as well. Emily Endean is our guest, who's one of the new ex-photographers. We'll be talking to her about van life, Kev. Van life. That's what you need in your life.
Yeah. Now look here. Biannually. What does biannually mean?
Biannually would be twice a year, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you're right. I just looked it up on the internet.
You don't put.
Twice a year. I always thought that meant like every 2 years.
No. Bi is twice a year. Biannually or bi-monthly, twice a month. Bi-weekly.
I've had this wrong my entire life.
Twice a week. Have you made this mistake for your entire life?
Yep. Entirely.
No wonder you've been busier than you meant to be.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's sorted. Shall we crack on with questions? Oh yeah, van life, Kev. That's talking to Emily Endean, one of our new ex-photographers. But she's talking about she's gone and bought herself a Heimer. It's the real classic, proper classic motorhome. Could you live that like? Imagine that, Kev. Once a year, we do a month, just 1 month, by the way, 1 month on. Maybe we could borrow Emily Endean's camper. What do you think? You and me on the road.
Isn't it called a Hummer?
No, Heimer. A Hummer? Oh, my God. Are we going to have this for the whole show? A Hummer.
I have no idea what a Heimer is. How do you spell it?
Hymer, I think, is a Heimer. Look up Heimer. Be careful.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. That's cool, isn't it? I'm very envious. Yeah, that'd be cool if we could.
You can't buy a right-hand drive one. They're all left-hand drive ones. As far as I know, I think they're all left-hand drive ones.
That's very nice. Yeah. God, I don't know. These ex-photographers these days buying vans.
Yeah. Well, and some of them actually have...
Us poor ex-photographers.
And us never been ex-photographers.
I was in... Yeah, well, that's true. I was overly excited yesterday. The day before yesterday, I was doing a family shoot in Milford-on-Sea, and it was a petrol station. It was £1.92 for diesel. And I was like, right, Albie, because Albie came with me for the day. We're going there on the way home. I was... so thrilled.
And you got there to run out.
No, they did have some, yeah.
There's a guy over this way, by the way, one of those small independent, there's not many of them around, I know, independent petrol stations, who is selling at the moment for I'm sure Sam said 182 or something like that.
Diesel? Petrol.
Yeah, petrol. Oh, so it'd be a bit more expensive for diesel. Oh, you found diesel in the 180s?
192. Yeah.
Oh, I think he's cheaper than that. I think he's at the late 180, 189 or something.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, just trying to make a point to petrol station. I mean, the other day, as it's all going now below 190, I stopped for one of those expensive sandwiches, at a motorway services.
Subway? Was it a Subway?
No, I don't.
Was it a foot-long Subway?
No.
Did you cut it in half and call it a buy Subway?
No, that's it. No, I stopped for a sandwich, but on account of the fact I didn't have much change out of 60 quid, it was a bit tight. But the...
Big sandwich.
No, you know what it's like at motorway services. Yeah. And then the petrol, £2.8. £2.8, Kev. Somebody is profiteering.
It's wrong. Don't even get me started. It is wrong. You've got me started now. It's awful. It is the one by here, the BP garage in Malmesbury. He's still at £1.99. I won't go there. I'd rather walk.
I might have to edit some of that bit.
I don't care. I've told him on Facebook.
Did you tell him on Facebook?
Yeah.
What did he say back?
He didn't really answer. Oh, we buy our fuel. We have to buy our fuel like months in advance, etc., etc., etc. I'm like, yeah. Well, so does everybody else.
Is he the petrol station owner then?
He's the franchisee.
Because I'm very careful not to say anything to the people that are working behind the kiosks, because it's not their fault.
No, yeah, quite, absolutely.
They're fed up to it. The back teeth with it. When you go in, please don't moan at me. It's not my fault.
Yeah, so. I get that. Yeah, I understand that fully.
But the guy that you're talking about,
guy what owns it, he can do a runner.
Yeah, you're not sending him a Christmas card this year, that's for sure. Right. Questions. Do you want to start or shall I?
Well, first of all, I got a question. Today's a very sad day as we record this.
Why?
Uncle Bulgaria has died.
Uncle the Womble?
Bernard Cribbins.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest. I thought he'd gone a while back. But
he was 93, yeah.
I'm going to feign some kind of no-ness here, because that is still sad.
Oh, it's really sad.
Bernard Cribbins is part of my childhood. He's part...
Right, said Fred. Better get him.
That's it. Junior choice.
So here's the question for you.
Go on.
Where did Uncle Bulgaria pick his papers up, and where did he take them to?
In the Wombles. Yeah. Because Bernard Cribbins played Uncle Bulgaria. Yeah. I don't know. Whether he must have picked them up probably from the bin on Wimbledon Common.
Yes.
Because they would scavenge, wouldn't they, the Wombles? They'd clean Wimbledon Common up. So he must have... Or did he pick it up from a park bench or something?
It's not so much where he picked it up, it's where he took them to.
Oh. Where did he take the papers? I have no idea, Kev. I don't remember that part of the show.
He took them to Tobermory.
And what did Tobermory do with them?
Well... Tobermory is actually the capital of the Isle of Skye.
But he was also a Womble.
Uncle Bulgaria, he can remember the days when he wasn't behind the times with his map of the world, pick up the papers and take them to Tobermory.
If you're American, by the way, you've got absolutely no idea what we're talking about here.
I reckon they'll know the Wombles.
No, really? No. The fluffy characters on children's BBC.
They were great.
Madame Shirley was my first crush.
Yes. Madame Shirley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, dear. There we go.
Yeah.
And I had an Orinoco fluffy puppet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh,
Right.
what can't they? What like the kids these days? They're watching things like Stranger Things and stuff like that, where they have people with eyes, blood peering out of their eyes and stuff like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Why can't they watch the Wombles?
It's slightly different to what we grew up with, Kev. The Wombles and Through the Square Window. That was it, wasn't it? Yeah. That was it. And Brian Cant. You have to be very careful with that name.
Gemma. Well, yes. I'm not going to say the G word, but if you ask the G device on your phone, dear listeners, when you do not have your children with you, what 100 is in Welsh. Sounds very similar to Brian Cant. Anyway,
Shall we move on? That's why I don't teach our kids Welsh.
Quite. Last week, Albie came up from school one day and he said, "Dad, do you know what 100 is in Welsh?"
Oh, yeah.
Gemma last week. It would have been last week because Albie finished primary school. So she said, "Can you do the photo booth?" Like me and they'd kind of run. My back just started sweating immediately.
They asked you to do the photo booth at a school gig.
Yeah. So Gemma went to the PFA meeting about it, and everybody was doing stuff.
She didn't suggest you, did she? Without asking first.
No. In fairness to her, what happened was, somebody said, "Oh, last year we had a photo booth," and then all eyes in the room, like 32 pairs of eyes, just immediately turned and stared at Gemma.
And she was thinking, "Warning! I've got to break this to Mullins."
And I got up in the morning of the thing. I had to lug my background and my light and camera and all that over to the school. It's not that far, but it was fine. And I was in a right mood about it because I was really busy and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And Gemma said, not Gemma, Mrs. Woods, the head teacher, lovely lady. She goes, "Well, are you gonna kind of, have you got props and big glasses and hair, and you're gonna get them to make funny faces and everything?"
I'd have paid to watch this.
I said to her, "Look, Mrs. Woods, I'm more Jack D than I am Mr. Tumble. You better get used to that."
So what were your pictures then? Were they all quite sort of miserable?
No, the kids. I just left the kids to do. I said, "Look at me." That's it. And then I took pictures. And of course, because I had static light as well, I didn't use flash. So they were all very confused because they just kept staring at me. And I was like, "That's it. Go on, go off. Get your next one in. Get the next flea-ridden little pod in."
You're like that child entertainer on Heidi High that hated the children.
Yeah.
Hang on, we're back in the airport.
Anybody travelling with children, we hate you.
There we go. Right.
Yeah, it was a bit like that.
So, do we have any bump to the fronts or anything like that before we go for the questions?
Let me just quickly check, even is the word.
Or any welcomes to do.
Oh, yeah, no, you've thrown me now. It's been so long since we've done this. I better do this.
It's only a month, Mullins, only a month.
I know. And I've moved all my files to my new OneDrive account. Hang on. Patrons. There we go. Yeah. Yes, we have 5 to say hello to, or thank you to.
Go on then.
Have Angela Fenwick. Thank you, Angela. We have Steve Shreve. Thank you, Steve. We have George Gillum. Thank you, George. We have RB, just called himself or herself RB. So thank you, RB. Mm-hmm. And we have Patrick Kelly. Okay. So in terms of bumps to the fronts, we do have one, in fact, from Patrick Kelly.
Yeah, and one from Scott Carney as well, actually.
Yes, we do. You're right.
Shall I do the Scott one? You do the other one?
Go on then. You go first.
Scott Carney said, "Message for the show. I wondered a little about the behind the scenes of the podcast itself. Who do you host with, if at all?" Well, of course we host with somebody. We have to. How do you get the show onto the different platforms and your own website? And any other useful information for running a podcast? I refer you, Scott, to my Running a Podcast workshop, which you are welcome to attend to find out how to make oodles of money from running a podcast. But you might be a little bit disappointed. Well, a quick answer to that. We host with a company called Libsyn, which are, I think, still the biggest hosting platform Joe Rogan used to be with him before he got paid $100 gazillion from Spotify. How do you get the show onto the different platforms? That's all about sharing your RSS feed.
Which Libsyn do on your behalf, don't they?
No, they don't actually. Some of them are much less automated. For example, if you go with Anchor, then they do it all for you. There are various other ones that do, but no, Libsyn I had to push it through. Any other useful information for running a podcast? Blimey, how long have you got? That could be a forever. We've been doing it 3 years, you and I, Kev. That could be a book in itself. What do you think's the most useful info for running a podcast, Kev? And I'll find one as well.
Get Neil to do all the hard stuff.
No, that's not the answer, Kev. What's the most useful?
That's on my podcast workshop.
Is it?
Yeah, people come in through the door. We sit down. We have coffee, and we have we chat. We watch a bit of telly. I show them my microphone, and I just say that's it. Everything else gets done by the fairy that is Neil.
Right. I'm not quite sure. I like that.
No, I don't know. I think probably isn't it about consistency and having a format and all of that kind of stuff. That's what they always say. And
try and find something different.
A lot more about it than me.
Yeah, try and find something different, I think is what we're saying, isn't it, Kev, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think when we started this, and also my other flavoured podcast, I wanted to be aware, and I think we wanted to be aware of not just having another interview show, because there are so many really good another interview shows on. So to try and find something that flavours the show, whether that be the sound of you moving around in the open air, whether that be kind of a zoo format thing that we do here. Sometimes we do something on the road, don't we, Kev? So bring some texture, and then it will have a sense of USP.
Yeah, texture. That sounds good.
And what did you have? What was your bump to the front?
Yes, sorry. Oh, I've lost it again. No, there it is. Patrick Kelly, long-time listener, brand new patron. Thank you. Signed up so I could offer a suggestion, make a request. There's a stroke in the middle of that, and it's kind of out there, so would not be surprised if you skip it. I had not read this first.
Oh, dear.
Now we're going to have to do it. There's this photographer who I followed for years on Flickr.
Right.
He has taken some breaks, but it seems like he is re-engaging in photography.
That's good.
His name is Sanders McNew, McNew. And on Instagram, it is Sanders NYC. So if you have a quick look at that.
I will.
I've now clicked on that link and gone from the question. So there we go.
Sanders NYC.
Oh, it is nice, isn't it? There's a lot of infrared stuff. Instagram, Sanders, Sanders NYC, as in New York City.
So I used to take pictures and live in a city, then I stopped. Now I live at the end of a dirt road on the 7 Mile Ridge. Sometimes I take pictures. I quite like that.
I do like it. I love that latest one with the cow.
Yeah, just standing in the middle of the road.
It's infrared. There's a lot of infrared stuff here, which makes it look like it's in the winter, in the snow. Yeah, very nice, very nice, very nice. We like new people to look at.
So, what was there a point to that, or just we're being pointed to?
That was just kind of pointing our eyes at it.
Do you know what I really like about the fact that there's no real format to this at all? It's just I like to take a few pictures, and there's pictures of people here. Sometimes animals, sometimes the bread that he makes in the morning.
No, it's good. I like that as well. Very nice indeed. Wouldn't it be nice to just take pictures sometimes?
I'm telling you, Kev, we need a van. We can travel on the road and make our pictures.
Yep.
You can bring the background with you, and we'll make the money to afford it by you doing school shoots.
We could dress up as Uncle Bulgaria.
Like what you did the other day. Right, to questions. Shall I start with one then?
Go on then.
Hi, Kev. This is from Greg Pedder. Hi, Kev. Hi, Neil. In episode 225, you talked about the roadmap, in particular the new 56 1.2 Mark II lens. You might have something to say about that, Kev. I don't know. I have a question for Kev. Well, hopefully you have got something to say about it. I'm considering purchasing either the 50F1 or waiting for the 56 F1.2 Mark II. Having had a chance to extensively test the 50F1, would you choose to purchase the 56-1.2 and not the 50F1? If you were spending your cash, what would you do, Kev?
Okay, so I don't. The new 56 has been announced on the roadmap, but obviously I don't know anything more about it apart from I would imagine it will be faster than the previous one.
Why will it be, and how will it be faster? Why?
Well, just newer tech, isn't it?
Yeah.
Probably thinner elements, that kind of stuff in there. I'm guessing it'll be weather sealed as well. Mm-hmm. Previous one wasn't. So I have been using the 50F1 all through the winter, in fact, because my 56 1.2 got the ump with me, stopped working.
Something about firmware that was a problem for you. Although I've got an older 56 1.2 on the front of the XH2S. I'm not having any problems.
Well, I wasn't actually going to say that bit about it being a problem with the firmware.
I wouldn't.
But I will now. That's at the back.
Do you want me to edit that bit out, or can we carry on? No, did you do a firmware update and then it didn't work for you, or something?
Yeah, basically, a long time ago in a galaxy far away, there was a series of firmware updates to the Fujifilm cameras, which introduced an issue for the 56 1.2, but only if you were using the AFL button on the back button focusing.
Which you do.
So I do. And I discovered this, and it was very frustrating. So essentially, not always as well, you'd focus, and then it would release the focus, and you'd have to focus again. Lots of people kind of came across this issue as well. So I did spend some time with the good chaps in Tokyo chatting about it and kind of sending through data and stuff like that. And yes, it was an issue. So I stopped using my 56 1.2 at that point. 50 F1 was available, so I have had that, with the plan being that it would get me through the winter, because I needed an F1 or F1.2 because I don't use lights or anything. So 50 F1 came, and it is very, very good. It's like massive, huge, but obviously you can practically see in the dark. There's not a lot of difference between F1 and F1.2, to be totally honest with you. I find it perfectly sharp at F1. I would say my gut feeling, if you don't need a super fast prime lens at the moment, is to wait for the new 56, because it will be smaller.
Well, I'm thinking about the smaller thing. So the 56, the new 56 is going to be smaller than the sort of heavier one that I've currently got. Yeah,
I don't know. So the new 56, I'm hoping will be similar size, or maybe a tiny bit bigger than the original 56.
Oh, bigger, right? Okay.
Or the same size. I can't imagine they'll make it smaller. I just can't see how that would happen, because a 1.2 lens needs a lot of glass inside it. So I'd be very surprised if it's smaler.
Yeah. But in terms of focal length, 50 millimeters versus 56. So I suppose if you're thinking in old 35mm language, that's 9 millimeters of difference, or 6mm obviously APS-C. Is that enough to make a difference that he needs to swap out of that and go for the 56?
No, it's just one step back, isn't it? That's it, really. I mean, I think that 50 f1 lens was made, to prove a point. Yes, we can do. They were the world's first f1 mirrorless autofocus lens, as far as I'm aware. Yeah. But I think it's primarily aimed at studio photographers, or portrait photographers, I should say, who want that superb depth of field bokeh. And I think that's the primary target. Unless you're in that camp, I would suggest waiting for the version 2 of the 56 whenever it hits the shops. And of course, that does depend somewhat on supply and the electronic gubbins and all of the issues. You can't get anything these days, can you?
Well, do you know what? I'm delighted to have, as you know, I've started using my XH2S now for weddings, and I used a combination. I've never done this before, Kev. Used 2 different bodies. I know you have, but I haven't. It's just something I've never, ever, ever, ever done. So I used the X100V and the XH2S in combo. And I found it worked really well. And then I thought, well, possibly could I go for 2 X100Vs and the XH2S? Looked online. You cannot find an X100V for love nor your mother-in-law.
No, they're rare as hen's teeth at the moment.
I know.
But everything is. If you look at certain Sony cameras, Canon, it's all the same. It's like parts for a car. Everything. It's just. Mr. Tumble would sort it out.
He would, Mr. Tumble.
We need Mr. Tumble as world leader.
Maybe Mr. Tumble should have gone for the Conservative leadership.
I think he did.
Yeah. I tell you what, sort of up to date, somebody did take a tumble, obviously, on the television show, didn't they? She's all right, fortunately. Yeah. But I was reading the comments in the YouTube video that had some extra angles on it, and I think most of the comments were, they bored the host enough that she just fell over.
Yeah, honestly, this is gospel truth, right? So I was on the Signal chat thing, the radio station I do my show on. We don't use WhatsApp, we use Signal, which is a similar thing. And I was recounting the story on there about the old lady that died at the wedding, which we've talked about a million times on this show. And as I was recounting that, tapping away on my phone, I was watching this thing on the television. Oh, and this woman died.
Did she go at that?
This woman fell over.
She toppled. No, she didn't die.
No, sorry, she didn't die. She fainted. I literally just said on the Signal chat, I think I've just done it again, I glanced at the TV, and then there was this almighty bang, and Liz Truss looked like she looked horrified. She had to open a door, and she didn't know which one to open.
Tell you, Mr. Tumble, and Uncle Bulgaria.
Yeah, that's who we need to run the world.
Either or. Yeah. Right, go on. Question from Facebook. Have you got one?
Yeah. So, as is time-honored tradition, I will start with the most recent question, which was 2 days ago. Paul Sislard. I always say that wrong. How would you say it?
Sillard.
Yeah. What are your thoughts providing full res JPEGs versus prints mounted in an album? Also, as a guideline, do you get many orders for reprints? Lastly, any thoughts on self-service sites such as SmugMug, where people can order whatever size and type they want without giving me any overheads? Thanks for a great podcast. It's my number one listening source.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Well, let's go for one question at a time. And the first one was about prints versus JPEGs, wasn't it? I mean, we do the same, don't we, Kev? It's a download of the full resolution JPEGs.
Yeah. So we're coming at this from a wedding photographer's point of view.
Yeah.
So I would hazard a guess, if you're a wedding photographer in this day and age and you do not supply your clients with JPEGs, you will go out of business pretty damn quick.
What do you mean supply them with JPEGs? You are, though, aren't you, when you supply them the full resolution images?
Yes, but the question is giving them JPEGs versus prints. Yeah. So if as a wedding photographer, if I said to my clients, you don't get any digital images, but you can, I'll give you prints. Even if the prints are free, they're probably going to say, I want the JPEGs.
Sorry, I thought you were suggesting the other way around. Yeah, absolutely, yes, yeah.
However, there are a lot of very well-established portrait family photographers, all of that kind of stuff, who do work on the print model.
Yes.
Something similar, I did it myself recently. I did a couple of family shoots a few weeks ago, and I've set up a new pricing system where if they spend a certain amount on prints, then they will get the digital images for free. Right. Otherwise, they have to buy the digital images. And that's quite a common practice, quite a common kind of way of doing things for that type of business. But I would suggest for weddings, it's going to be very tricky to only give prints and try and sell the JPEGs.
The problem is you'll be up against too much competition that are giving it giving the JPEGs, aren't they? And so it would never work.
It's and also it's the world we live in, isn't it? We live in a digital world now. So yes, the competition obviously is there, but also, it's like I only come to weddings on a pedal bike because that's how I like it. Yeah. It's like, well, can you come in a car and get there like 4 days earlier instead? It's the world we live in, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Second question was,
do you get many orders for reprints?
It's a bit hit and miss, really, Kev. It does. Sometimes I get a healthy big order through PicTime, which we'll come to, but often no.
Yeah, exactly the same. I occasionally get a reasonable order, nothing that's going to kind of pay for a tank of petrol. But as I said, the family stuff, which I've done a few more of recently, they're far more likely to order a print or something. Yeah. But weddings, not so much. And again, I think that might be something to do with style. People typically don't seem to buy documentary style pictures to stick on walls, as far as I can tell. They never have. Whereas I think if you're more of an editorial wedding photographer, then I guess you probably would sell more prints. But for documentary style, it just doesn't seem to do that.
Yeah, the print sales that I do tend to be family portraits. So
yeah. So that's the state of the industry right now, I would say. Or
actually, an interesting addendum to that. Now that I've got my teleconverter lens on the X100V, I've been taking it out for probably about 8, 9, 10 weddings as the evening camera, and I've been making portraits, and I've sold a few of those. And I just did it because I wanted to start doing more street portraiture stuff. And I thought, well, I might as well, as I'm at a wedding and people don't mind having their picture taken, I'll just get busy at weddings in the evening and sort of practice my patter. And I've sold a few of those. So that proves the point, doesn't it? That it's portraits.
Yeah, exactly. And the last part of the question was, what about services such as SmugMug, which essentially automate all of that stuff for you?
Yeah.
And both you and I use PicTime.
That's right.
Which is similar to SmugMug, similar to Zenfolio, similar to... there's loads of them.
Do you remember why you changed, Kev? I mean, I changed to PicTime because I really liked the way it displayed the photographs. It looked more slick, and it just felt less clunky.
Yeah, I changed because you changed, basically. You showed me yours, and I was like, wow, look at that.
I'll have a bit of that.
That's happened a few times, mind. But the thing about PicTime, the thing about all of these systems, by the way, so SmugMug, PicTime, Zenfolio, all of that kind of stuff, if you do the automated fulfillment, i.e., client goes onto the website, they buy a print, it automatically goes off to a lab. You get some money. You don't have any dealings with it. And same thing for albums. So I love PicTime because my clients will build their own album and they have the benefit of that. That's a benefit. They can pick their own prints. They can look at the layouts. They can do all of that. However, if you were to sell that album or print directly or go to the lab directly, all right. So let's just say Digital Lab up in Newcastle, if I was to do a fulfillment through one of the online systems, I would make less profit than if I were to go directly to the lab and do the stuff myself. And in some cases, it's quite a substantial difference. So certainly some of the album manufacturers on PicTime, they charge a premium for the PicTime integration. Yeah. PicTime take a bit of their profit as well. So, you are technically losing out on your margins, but you get the luxury of not having to do the legwork. So for me, it makes a lot of sense.
I used to make more sales, Kev, when I, for a while, diligently produced cards and left them on the tables where they were eating. I stopped doing that well before even COVID came along. But for a while I tried that, and it was quite a successful way of doing it.
What did it say on the cards?
It just, and it was a handwritten job I had to do this, Kev. I had to do about 30, 40 cards to have enough on tables. But I'd always know the URL up ahead, what the wedding was going to be on. So they would pocket the card, and then they'd be in there.
Yeah, and actually, so I had a client a few months back who said before the wedding said, "Oh, will you be bringing a card with with the links to the pictures?"
Well, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So the client asked me. I didn't do that, but it did get me thinking because now I have a page on my website. It's kind of buried under that. You go info and then it says client galleries, and that has access to all of my client galleries.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need the password and all that. So there's actually only one you could do. You could just print them with just that URL.
Yeah. Oh, you could. Yeah. And then just
doesn't have to be a unique one.
Yeah, but have some sort of password that is obvious always. Like the bride and groom's surnames together or something.
Well, so there's a couple of things that I think you'd probably need to be careful of here. In that you don't really want to be giving guests access to clients' galleries.
But how are they going to see them?
Okay. Well, that's one of the benefits of these systems, isn't it? So the clients will essentially grant access. So so on PicTime, the clients will share or grant access to guests. Yes. Until they do that, nobody can get in. But the URL is the same. Yes. So if so-and-so goes to my Kevin Mullins Photography info client galleries and clicks on a link, they won't get in unless the client has allowed access.
But at some stage, the client will need to give them some sort of code, won't they? Otherwise, you could access any of the galleries that have been unlocked on that page.
Yeah, well, essentially, yes, they can lock it down. Well, I think the reason why I'm stumbling over this is because I think this is a PicTime specific feature rather than any of the others. I certainly never recalled this kind of feature in Zenfolio, so they can essentially just switch it on or off. That's the only thing that I'd be careful of, because I say to my clients when I send them the gallery, you can, if you wish, you can choose to hide some images. Some of the bridal prep stuff, perhaps they don't particularly want everybody to be seeing before they then open the gallery up for other people. They still get to see them, but they can hide some stuff. So that's my only thought on that. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, I think the cards on the table thing is not a bad idea, especially if you're more of an editorial style photographer.
Yeah. Well, now that Kev, you're taking your backgrounds everywhere and doing portraits, then it's something to think about. Right, let's hear from our guest. Part 1, Emily Endean, who is one of the new ex-photographers. She is not only a committed now van lifer, but also her work beneath the waves, if you like, because she's a sea swimmer, is absolutely gorgeous. So here's a chance to meet one of the new ex-photographers. This is Emily Endean. Emily, you mentioned on your website that you've reached a point where you actually don't remember life without photography. Does your story start with a member of your family buying you a first camera or being a photographic mentor?
Yeah, I think it was way back when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
Somebody gave me my first film camera. It was just a little cheap plastic thing. I don't think it was anything particularly fancy. Yeah. But yeah, I just remember taking pictures of my family, and we moved to Bournemouth when I was about 4 years old. So that's probably around the time that I remember my first kind of memories of scenery and going out to the New Forest and going out to the beach, just taking pictures. Yeah. And I've still got a few of those pictures now.
Oh, amazing.
And they are awful.
Oh.
They're terrible. Because you look at them and obviously I know who they are because it's my family, but nobody else will be able to make out who's who.
But that's the fun of finding old photographic books, isn't it? That you think, wow, look at that. I mean, there's almost a sort of charm. I found when my mother passed away and we went into the attic and started to do the attic clearance, I found all the old albums. Mum, and I'm sorry, Mum, I'll look skyward as I say this, but she was hopeless when it came to photographing things. It was either in the corner of the frame, or it completely missed, or it was a red arrows ants shot, as we used to call them. But that there's almost kind of an endearing charm about that, isn't it? Finding that old stuff, isn't there?
I think, and it's kind of, I see that as quite artistic and creative anyway. I'm sure there's something to be had about having something in the corner of the frame and all that empty space.
Yeah, maybe she knew about negative space. See, Wendy, you did it all right. You did okay. Your other very fond relationship is with the sea, though, isn't it? And you mentioned you moved to Bournemouth when you were very young. And I know that there certainly is a family member who helped you forge that path. And that's Gran, isn't it?
Yes, I've got great memories of going down the beach with my Gran and our whole family. So, I can literally remember standing there 5, 6 years old, holding my mum's hand, holding my Gran's hand and just jumping the waves. Yeah. And it's just such great memories. And, we'd be in there no matter the weather. If it's raining, everyone was kind of like, come on, we're going to get wet anyway. Let's just get in there, just have fun. And we'd all end up back on the shoreline, wrapped in a towel, sharing a flask of coffee. Oh, marvellous. And just those memories are really, really special. So did the photography start then as well with was there a period where you were photographing the sea then? I know it was very early years. Yeah, I probably did take a few snaps of my family at the beach, but not so much taking photos of the sea though, I don't think. You do describe yourself as an ocean addict. What is it about the sea and the coastline now that draws you to it, that makes you photograph it? Yeah, so I think probably over the last 10 years or so, I've photographed it a lot. And I've always drawn to the shoreline. And I just like playing around with the shutter speeds, the movement of the water. So I've always had that. And then it's probably during one of the first lockdown, actually, living so close to the sea. It got me out in the morning working from home. It just got me out the house and got me down to the beach. And I started getting in the sea and experiencing this really nice environment of just floating, looking up at the clouds, enjoying complete escapism from whatever else was going on in the world. And that was how I started my day. And I realised at that point, going from a child to growing up, there's all these other things that happen in your life in between, and I probably had forgotten about how good the sea was. So that at that point, I decided I need to try and photograph what I'm experiencing. So I got an underwater housing. And it was kind of at that point that I started experimenting with shots of sunrise from the water, and photography and my love of being in the sea just suddenly merged again.
There's a great meditational thing to it, isn't there? There's a photographer who I follow, and I adore her work, Margaret Soraya.
Oh, yes, I know Margaret.
Who's in Scotland. And she has these most beautiful images of actually quite fierce seas many times. But she does talk about this sort of this meditational effect that it has on her life. And it sounds like that's what happened to you, because you found yourself floating in the water, then you were thinking about the sea, then it was taking your mind to other places at a time God knows we needed it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think especially to be out at sunrise, as a photographer, I've always loved that, because everyone else is in bed and you see the wonders of a colourful or magical sunrise unfolding, and it's really special. So to have that feeling of being in the water and watching the sunrise just as the sun kind of tips over the horizon and there's all that golden light, there was something really, really special about that. And I love to meditate, and that to me was the same kind of thing. And I would get in the water in the morning and watch the sunrise, and that was the same kind of meditation in my eyes.
Are you meeting many morning swimmers? I know that there's various clubs all over the UK now.
Yeah, there's definitely been an influx. So yeah, I've met lots of people and made some good friends out of it, actually. So it's been really nice. Just all kinds of different people, all walks of life, just coming together just to enjoy that same thing.
And I do notice that your photographs, you talk about the golden light, and the colours of your photographs are absolutely gorgeous. And I know that you sell your work online as well, and you can see a great selection on your website. I'm wondering, I know you've got the underwater housing. I know nothing about underwater housing, by the way, so this is going to be a complete lesson to me.
Okay.
Like our conversation on van life, which is coming up as well. But are you able to fix filters to your lens in this housing as well? Because much of it, I mean, the colours you get when you're in the water are simply out of this world.
Oh, thank you, first of all. But no, you can't fix filters. So the housing is built for a specific lens size. So when I purchased mine, I just purchased the bog standard thing that came with it, because I had no clue what I wanted to do with it. So it fits my 18 to 55 lens. So I played around with that for a bit, and it's literally so fitted, there's no room for a filter.
Oh, right.
But then I realised my 60mm macro lens is the same kind of size, and it actually fits in there too. And that's what I've been really enjoying shooting with, because I think because it's a macro lens, the perspective it brings, I can shoot really close to the ripples of the water or the wave that's coming. Gives a really interesting perspective. But yeah, I mean, as for filters, no. But yeah, I think it's just the incredible colours that seem to unfold at that time of day and how that reflects on the water. There's just so many different elements that come into play.
And that picture on the front of your website, by the way, that's a GFX in housing, isn't it?
No, so that one is
I thought
my
that was a
X-T3.
GFX. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so that one's my X-T3. So yeah, the housing is actually bespoke for whatever
camera,
model of camera you want to buy it for. Yeah. So I've got it for the X-T3.
And it's not cheap, is it?
No, it wasn't. But there's so many to choose from as well. Same as buying a camera, isn't it? They're all good. It's just finding what works for you and your price range. So yeah, I think I ended up paying about 650 quid for it. Yeah. Especially coming from a point where you're thinking, oh, I'd like to try this, but I don't really know whether it's going to be something I use all the time. So, I mean, there were brands that were about £1,400, and I thought, well, I'm not going that far with it. So, yeah, I kind of went middle of the road.
But there are also underwater bags, aren't there? There's softer bags that you can use.
Yeah, I did try something like that, first of all. And it worked until over the winter it got really cold, and then the condensation and everything like that got really damp inside, and it never really came back from that. But it was, I think I spent about £70 on this bag type thing, this lock bag, and it just, yeah, once it started going wrong, I thought, no, I don't want to ruin my kit, so I'm going to invest in something a bit better.
Is there a particular part of the coastline that particularly interests you? I know you like the South Coast. So Jurassic Coast is absolutely beautiful, and you're probably spoiled for choice, and you could work that Jurassic Coast for the entire career, I would imagine. But are there other places you've visited that capture your imagination just the same? Yeah,
definitely Cornwall.
Yeah.
When the weather's good in Cornwall, you can't really go wrong, whether it's surfers or whether it's just these crystal clear waters and beautiful coves and hidden tidal pools. We had a holiday in Cornwall last year, and our mission was just to find all these great tidal pools.
What's a tidal pool?
So it's where when the water goes out, you've got this natural rock formation where the water's just kind of left behind. So we don't really have that in Dorset. We have a man-made one which is dancing ledge.
I've never heard of that, no.
Yeah, so I don't know what, I won't go into a history lesson because I'm not 100% on the facts, but somebody basically blasted a hole into this rock so that school kids could go down there and swim. So we have that on the Jurassic Coast, but yeah, we don't really have anything else like that in Dorset. So going to Cornwall and hunting down these tidal pools that you can swim in are really cool. You do swim through the year, don't you? You're not simply fair weather swimmer. I mean, this is something you do all year round. And I met some swimmers on the beach in Brighton. I think it was much earlier this year. And it looked really cold. They were both they both had these big towels around them. They'd just been for their swim, but they did say that actually the temperature in the water is not as cold as you think. And you can tell me this, but the seas around the UK tend to stay fairly similar all year long, apart from just a couple of months. Yeah, it doesn't go too bad actually. So you can kind of go up until December. It probably starts cooling down. Yeah. And then January, February are the worst. And it might get down to about 6 degrees. But then there's times where over the winter we've walked across a frosty beach and it's -2. And then you get in the water and it's 6 degrees. So actually you feel like the water's warmer. And it is. But then it's when you're getting out, that's the hard bit. Yeah. So photography and sea together is not always the best combination. And we've talked about the housing that you use. But also, of course, on land as well, that can be a bit tricky. What do you use to keep everything clean and tidy and dry? And I know you've got the underwater housing, but you spend a lot of time by the sea. And spray, of course, is a big issue for cameras. Yeah, definitely. I mean, my camera's quite weatherproofed, so it's quite good. But yeah, it's just a case of getting home and making sure everything's clean. Plenty of wipes. It's just going to be a constant issue, isn't it? The spray from the sea coming up. But yeah, I'm surprised my gear lasts as long as it does, to be quite honest with you. I'm really pushing it. You started very much, you were photographing the vistas, weren't you? Yeah. And I know that that's changed within your work. I saw a film where you suggested that things have changed. How have they changed? Yeah, I think you get to a point where you've shot the same scene so many times and you naturally start looking for something different. And I found myself looking at details or looking for movement. So kind of dabbled over the last couple of years with a lot of quite abstract shots, and it might be up close to the wave and it's a slightly longer shutter speed and the wave's coming over, but you're in so close that it looks quite abstract, or like the bubbles under the water using the underwater housing, or a shell on the shoreline. I can get obsessed with that for a good hour. So yeah, just looking for those smaller details I find quite therapeutic. You mentioned slower shutter speeds. That must be pretty tricky because there's no such thing as a tripod underwater. No. When you're trying to steady unless that's part of the abstract nature of what you end with. You end with a slightly more sort of intentional camera movement within your pictures. Yeah, it can be. It can be quite a combination because, you have to think you're not static, the water's not static, so everything's kind of moving, and you can take lots of shots and there'll be one that is kind of what you've been after, because everything's changing all the time and there's so many variables. That adds quite a lot of excitement as well, because you don't know what you're going to get until you get home and bring it up on the laptop. But yeah, like you say, it can end up being a bit of ICM as well as the wave moving, because you're just kind of moving with it. Are we likely to see you diving as well with your housing now? I'd love to. I've got fins, so I do like to swim. I know you have the fins. I've seen the fins underwater. But actually taking it one step further and going a bit further out. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, I've thought about it, and I think I probably would be interested in getting some proper training or someone who's experienced kind of showing me the ropes and taking me out. Definitely. Now, we've talked about ambassadorial roles on the programme before. Congratulations from us are overdue, because you joined the Fujifilm X Photographer ranks earlier this year. How did you find out? I had an email. I had an email asking whether I'd like to come on board, and of course my answer was yes. Did you even have to think about that? No, I read the first line. Didn't you read the rest? Yes, I'll have it. Thanks. Yes, I'm doing it. I'll read the rest later. But yeah, it's been quite a long relationship of working with Fuji and just having general conversations, and I did a few bits here and there with the launch of a lens, and I spoke for them at the Spring Shoots photography show that was online during the pandemic. So there was a bit here and there, so it was a really nice organic relationship. So when the email came through, obviously it was a lovely surprise, but it didn't feel like it was so out the blue that, you know, there was no relationship there already.
Because you did write about this in your blog. It's not just about the free stuff and, you know, and tagging them and hoping that they'll say, come on board. It is about long-term relationships. It's about showing that you genuinely believe in the kit, and it's what you use as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of give and take, isn't it? And I use what I use because I love it and it works for me. Yeah. So the fact that then that brand want to back me and support me and want me as part of the team is a huge compliment in my eyes. Why
did you change? Because you were a DSLR shooter. I don't know what flavour of camera you were using, but...
Yeah, so I was always a Nikon DSLR shooter, and I was gifted my first DSLR around about 12 years ago now, I think. And it was a Nikon D3200, so it was quite a beginner level, because I'm not very technically minded at all, so it took me a while to get to grips with. But I kind of went from there, and I'd upgrade and get the next model. And I remember we went around India for 3 weeks, and I had all of my gear on my back. And I think it was 2018, and it was the time where mirrorless was really getting big. And I just got back and with achy shoulders thought I really need to look at this and think about how I can improve my experience, really. And I remember seeing one of my friends down the beach shooting with the Fuji X-T3, and I saw it, and I just saw how intuitive it was with the dials, and what you could see on the back of the screen is exactly what you're shooting. So yeah, it kind of went from there, and then I got the X-T3.
And we'll return to Emily Endean very soon for part 2. Right, back to your questions. We have a book today, don't we, Kev? We got a book of the month, which will be book of the bi-monthly soon. It doesn't really trip off the tongue.
You mean you only want me to do a book review every 2 months?
Don't you start. Marcus Norman. I've read that the new H2, XH2S, will have a much improved AF when compared to the X-T4. Is there any change? Autofocus, this is in the T4. Will it be improved via future software upgrades? I'm considering swapping my Sony A7 III for an X-T4, but I worry about the AF. I mainly shoot portraits. I love my X-T2 shooting experience so much that I've slowly been adding more Fuji lenses and selling off Sony lenses. Sounds like you're making the move already, Marcus. So now, both of us have used the XH2S. You've probably tested it far more than I have, Kev, because you did those amazing autofocus shots with a doggo, didn't you?
Yeah, I've used it at 3 weddings as well. I love it. So a couple of things that raised my very substantial eyebrows in that statement were, first of all, you do not need to worry about autofocus, especially if you're a portrait photographer. There is the X-T4, X-T3, X-T2, and X-T1 are and were all perfectly fine autofocusing systems. There's just no reason to be concerned about that at all.
I suppose when he's using a Sony A7 III, which you know, you can set it on an eye and it just follows the eye around, even if the eye goes off to Tesco and comes back half an hour later. That's what he's worried about, isn't it? That it had such a really good autofocus system.
Yeah, maybe. I just think, ask Annie Leibovitz if she, 15 years ago, whether she was thinking, I need a camera that can autofocus faster. Probably not. I think we all kind of, I'm including myself in this, we all love new tech and new stuff, but only get yourself into a system if it gives you something that your current system doesn't. The XH2S autofocus system is better than the X-T4. Okay, it's faster to focus. It has faster frames per second. It has eye tracking, face, animal tracking, flower track. I don't know. You can track whatever.
Flower tracking.
I never use any of that stuff. I have to say, I always use single point.
Yeah,
but it is faster. One of the angles of that question was, will the X-T4 be updated to XH2S autofocus system? I don't know. Obviously, I don't know, but my gut feeling is no, because this is a new sensor. So XH2S has a new sensor, so I'm guessing that probably won't happen. But that doesn't mean the X-T4. Up until 3 weeks ago, I was using X-T4, my X Pro 3. No issues, none whatsoever. Just because something new has come along doesn't mean that the previous ones are worse. XH2S is a beast, an absolute beast. I don't like using it.
But yours is to do with the hand grip, or the ergonomics and the PASM dial, though. That's what's ruining your experience.
And I think it's quite ugly as well. Not that what the camera looks like shouldn't, be a fundamental decision, but I don't think I can see myself ever kind of picking up the XH2S and wandering around the streets with it. I'd go with my X100, my X Pro, something like that.
Had they I've got the XH1 in my hand here, and had they left these the exposure triangle dials the way that it was in the inaugural body, if you like, you may have been more inclined to...
yeah, you're right. I like the manual dials, and I think if we think back to our conversation with Andreas at the House of Photography at the party show that we did, I think, if I'm right, I was certainly kind of hint in this direction that there will be certain styles of cameras where the PASM dial will be a focus, and on others it will remain with the manual dials, which is great, and that makes perfect sense because they're pacifying the people that want DSLR type stuff, and with a PASM dial, and then they're also pacifying grumpy old like me who want the old school stuff.
Well, of course, the PASM dial, the design on the new XH2S, get used to saying all the letters and numbers, is such that you can choose far more. You can set the camera up so you wouldn't have to change that exposure triangle too much in the way that you did with the manual dials before. So you probably don't choose more than I have. I mean, I probably have 3 or 4 setups that I have at most, and the XH2 will deal with that.
Yeah, I just stick it in A mode anyway. P mode, I don't really even worry about anything else. I was
thinking about flash and in the evening and when things do change a bit.
Yeah, I just stick it in P mode.
Fair dues.
You know me, but it is highly customizable. I love it. I do, honest to God, I do love it, and I'm genuinely excited about this sensor and what will come in the future. I think that everybody compares Sony whatever it is, and Canon this and Nikon that and whatever. Ever since I've been a photographer, it's always been the same. It's like one of those horse racing games you see at the fairground. Where you throw your ball up in the air and it lands in a hole, and then your horse moves a little bit further away than the next one, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It feels a little bit like that to me. At some point, one of them will be better. At another point, another one will be different. I think what we have to really, really congratulate Fujifilm on is the fact that they are essentially not alienating anybody. The amount, this frustrates the hell out of me, the amount of people on groups, and I've had conversations with people, XH2S is getting this super fast autofocus. Why isn't it in the X-T4? Why isn't it in the X-T3? Right, because it's a different camera. That they've made this is a new camera. That's what the word new means. It's new. It's come out later than the others. Yeah. You can't just click your fingers and get. We've been spoiled with technology. You do tend to just the latest and greatest thing, gadget, whatever. You go, oh, that's great, I'll have that. But Fujifilm have to run a business, but what they have done, and they've done this very cleverly since day one, is they have kept the soul, if you like, of the original X series, but they've given people options. If you don't like the tilt screen, don't buy the camera with that tilt screen. If you do like the tilt screen, buy it with that tilt screen, or don't use it.
Yeah, this tilt screen thing, I know there's some people that get their underwear in a firm twist about this one. If you don't like the tilt screen, leave it where it is.
I mean,
I even forgot that there was a screen that came out of the X100V, but it does. But I've never used it.
Yeah, exactly. And if all the cameras were identical, then they wouldn't sell. It just wouldn't make sense. And ultimately they are a business. But they've created an amazing ecosystem that is a good place, I think, for anybody that wants to get into it. And yes, the autofocus is phenomenal, and I mean that genuinely. But though I said that when the X-T4 came out, the autofocus was phenomenal. I meant that genuinely. When the X Pro 2 came out, autofocus was phenomenal. I meant that genuinely. And then there's also the whole thread where XH2S comes out and, I'm going to wait for the X-T5 then because, that'll be even better. I'm like, well, when the X-T5 comes out, what are you going to wait for next? 3S or something? Because that will be even better still.
Stop, Kev. We did have a question. I'm trying to find it on moving autofocus. Where was it? moving autofocus points around on the H2. Where was it? So that you can, and I've struggled with this as well myself, actually, although I think I've formed a system now, but of deciding what you want the focus to be on. But then you say you use single points, so it's not something you'd have really looked at, is it?
Yeah, but I don't really understand the question there.
In other words, when you're using autofocus, because it is amazing.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, right, there's 3 people in this frame that are of kind of equal, equal sort of on a similar plane, if you like.
Yeah.
But you want the person on the left to be your focal point. How do you make sure that they remain the focal point and the focus point doesn't dance around and choose subject B or C instead?
You're on about if they're using face detection.
Yeah.
That's the only time when that could ever be a consideration.
Yeah.
Then you just nudge the joystick, I think.
How did you do it with your dog?
I just pointed the camera at my dog.
Yeah, but there was dog and Albie, wasn't there?
Yeah. I didn't use any of the face detection stuff, so I just pointed it at... so if Albie was, like, in front of the dog, pointed it at him.
Yeah.
If the dog was in front of Albie, I pointed it at him.
I'll go do my homework on that one for you.
Keep it simple. Point your cameras at the things you want in focus.
Yeah, but you don't want them always to be in the middle, is what I'm saying.
But yeah, the face detect, I understand. So, you can have, as far from what I've read anyway, it will kind of go green on the one it is in focus.
That's
and I think
right.
there's a blue box and a white box. And you can just nudge the little joystick, or you can use the touchscreen, which I turned off, but you can use touchscreen.
Yeah. Oh, I must turn that off because I did burn through a few batteries the other day. Right. Shall we go for a book?
Yeah.
Book of the month, soon to be book of the bi-monthly.
Okay, so do you want me to look at the front of the book or the back of the book?
Which
and that
bits?
will determine what it's called.
Which bit's in focus? What do you mean the front or the back? Really?
Yeah.
So this is a book of 2 halves, to use a football analogy.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Let's go for the back.
Okay, the back. So this book, the book of the month, is called The Worst of Times.
Right.
Ask me to look at the front.
Look at the front of the book.
Book of the month this month is called The Best of Times.
This could have been a bi-monthly book.
Could be, yeah.
We should have saved this one.
Tony Othen is the photographer, and this is another one which I kickstarted on Blue Coat Press kickstart, and it was a few months back. Really nice. So because I kickstarted it, I got a nice print and it's signed, and I've got my name in the back along with a lot of other people who I recognise. However, it's now available for everybody else. I'll read the blurb before I talk about the pictures. As a freelance documentary photographer, Tony Othen has had many clients, most of whom were in the charity and educational sectors. His photography thus always had a purpose: to support the aims of the charity and the development of the educational bodies. Knowing why the photograph was taken is vital. Let me give an example. Walking into an elderly lady's poorly furnished flat, I didn't take shots when she was smiling, only when she was looking sad. This is because my reason for being there was to promote the work of my client. In this case, it was called Task Force, who were encouraging young people to volunteer to help those in need. It was my gut feeling that if this lady was looking too happy, the objective would not be served. So I waited until she looked sad and reflective. He wouldn't have too many problems if he came and photographed me, I have to say. My image was real, but not necessarily representative. It was a moment caught in time, not posed, just selected. Yeah. So the book itself is it's beautiful, as all the Blue Coat Press books are. Beautifully produced, nice kind of. Is it actually square? It looks a little bit larger than a square, a little bit longer on one edge. What does that make it? A small oblong shape,
right? Maybe.
And yeah, I mean, just like fundamentally beautiful. The portraits, especially, I like. He was talking about that in the introduction to the book. So, as he says, it's not necessarily structured moments in time, but they're not staged or set up. They're selected, and it's a case of beautiful, beautiful black and white prints all the way throughout, concentrating on certain characters. For example, there we go. Look at this. Cool, that could be my grandmother. Newport, South Wales, 1968. That does look like my Nana Mullins, I have to say.
Is it?
When you finish the housework, what better thing to do than sit on your doorway, watch the world go by, and talk to passers-by? I think it might be, Isn't that funny? I show this to my dad.
Is it your grandma? Really? Is there a chance?
Yeah, it does look a lot like her, I have to say.
How funny.
Although she is in a doorway of a house that's certainly not the house she lived in when, she died when I was 7, I think. Right. But I don't recall her ever living in that house. Yeah, and it's it's a really lovely picture of cracked window pane, the lady in her overalls, sat outside. Newcastle, 1968, old man with his pipe and his flat cap walking across the road. What I love about all these nostalgia pictures, and we don't need to talk about nostalgia again, but is, there's like 4 cars in this entire street, like 4. And now that exact same street, the houses would be the same, I'm sure. Maybe some of them have been re-rendered, but
wouldn't be able to get parking now.
No, exactly. You certainly wouldn't be able to wander across the road like that. And the pipe, everything about it. Devon, 1968 again. Thank you. Not only are you bringing back memories attached to the pictures, but you're making me remember the other things I had completely forgotten as well. And there you go. That's the point I always try and make. So this is a picture of an old lady in a scullery, and she's got, and you just look around. You look around the room, and there's the wooden door, the water tap that's bolted into the wall rather than gone through a full-on system.
That's right.
The metal frying pan, all of that kind of stuff, and it is all about the things beyond, isn't it?
The paint is peeled completely off the walls.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that the glass in the quarter light above her has cracked across the middle.
Henor, 1970. I don't think I've ever heard of Henor. Henor. Where's that, I wonder?
I don't know.
Anyway, there's a guy sat here with a budgie in a cage above his head. And my nana used to have budgies.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Didn't like it then, to be honest with you. But that was the thing, wasn't it? People had budgies.
Do people own budgies anymore? It's just sort of...
Some people do, don't they? But
do they? I thought that sort of thing was like a 1970s, a 1980s purchase thing.
Well, it was. It certainly was. Lots of people had them in those days, didn't they? My nana's one used to talk. It was great.
Did it?
Yeah. But London, 1973, page 110. This is an absolutely beautiful picture. Old lady sat in a leather armchair, which she probably bought that for £1, and now that leather armchair would probably sell for about £5,000 because it's vintage, and somebody from Chelsea would buy it. She's with a gas fire that's not on, of course. Yeah. There's dog food on the floor.
I was going to say, what's that on the floor? Is that?
Yeah, I presume it's dog food.
Or maybe a saucer of milk next to it.
Yeah. Rolled up newspaper in the corner there.
She's got proper Nora Batty stockings on. Look.
Yeah. Proper woody type. That's what we're all going to look like this winter, by the way.
Oh, probably, yeah.
That's exactly what we're going to look like.
The look in her eyes is, this is what's coming for you, 2022.
Yeah, we told you. We told you.
Yeah.
1973. The guy, next page, London. Pipe, again, another pipe. Different chapter, another pipe. And he stood in front of his fireplace, another gas fire. A tin of pedigree chum warming up on the top, so he's probably warming it up for his dog. He's got his washing strung across the fireplace.
That's right, yeah.
And above his mirror is naughty pictures of naughties.
He doesn't look the kind of guy.
Doesn't, does he? I love it. I just love it. Look at all this stuff. Look, this is in Chelsea, this one. I can remember the tin bath in the kitchen. It doubled up as a table when not in use. And this is in Chelsea, this lady. And now I know there are still kind of social housing and stuff in Chelsea, but you wouldn't look at this picture and think of Chelsea.
No.
It's a tin bath. She's got a plastic bucket with the washing in that she's about to do. Again, the water, the sink. These what they call them? Not farmers' sinks.
I know the one you mean. Not Butler's sink.
Butler's sink.
Belfast.
Belfast. Yeah, Belfast or Butler sinks. Like they were the cheap sinks in those days. They just used to screw them to the wall.
When we redesigned our kitchen, it was the most expensive thing in one of the houses.
I know.
You want one of those? Oh dear, that's going to be £1,500, sir.
Yeah, and the reason they were like the cheapest and the most used ones were because they were sturdy and they were simple shapes.
Well, it was just a rectangle thing, wasn't it? With a bit in the bottom for the U bend and the soak away or whatever.
Yeah, there we go. So it is called. It's Tony Othon, and the book is called "The Best of Times: the Worst of Times." You can get directly from the Blue Coat. It's about £28. Blue Coat website. I'm sure it's on Amazon as well. But my gut feeling is it would be better to support the publisher. Yeah, I love it. I really, really love this book.
Excellent. We'll leave a link for it on this show page, of course. Oh, you're going to have a chance to do a show page, Kev. You'll be at the airport, won't you? There might not be a show page for 2 weeks.
No, I'm sure I might be able to do something in up front.
Are you still not doing the beer on holiday?
I've kind of fallen off the wagon a bit, I have to say, since my last judo grading.
You didn't go into that judo fight absolutely pee-eyed, did you?
Yeah, I went in drunk.
Bring it on! Oh, sorry, I've got Barney next to me. Sorry, Barney. He looks a bit worried about that.
Yeah, I would as well.
Right.
I did. I've had a few drinks after those competitions and stuff. So, But all good. Come September, though, I will be back on the wagon fully.
Will you?
Ready for the next set of competitions. I'm just looking at some of the names in the back of this book that have backed it.
Any famous ones?
There is quite a lot. Jill Brown's there. Lovely Jill Brown. Yeah. She's a follower of the show. Yeah. John and Janet Willis.
Not the Janet and John.
Janet and John. Just seeing if who I would expect to be there is there.
And he's not.
Martin Parr usually
is that who you're looking for? Martin Parr?
Yeah.
He's not there.
Andrew and Verena. Victoria and Tom. Pat Hughes. I know Pat Hughes, I think. Kevin Adlard, FRPS.
Well, before you read off all however many hundreds of names are behind it, I'm going to let you...
Max Passion. No, that's a name, isn't it? Max Passion. Well, I want to be called Max Passion.
I don't think you do, Kev. It's a different kind of career altogether. I'd like to introduce you to part 2, rescuing this moment of our conversation with one of the new ex-photographers. This is part 2 of Emily Endean. And it's funny that you say you're not technically minded, because when you consider what you have to do with your camera underwater, the understanding that you have to have for when you're shooting in the water, under the water, over the water, the amazing macro work that you do and the colours that you manage to pull out of those as well. It doesn't look like the work of somebody who doesn't know the back end of a camera from the front end. I mean, I would imagine your technical knowledge and your savvy has increased remarkably over the last few years using the Fuji kit.
Yeah, definitely. I think going back to when I first started, I didn't have a clue, and it can be quite overwhelming if you just got all these dials and you don't know what you want to get out of it. But I think learning what you want to get out of it and then focusing on that and having a play around and seeing how that works for you, that's how I've learned, really. So yeah, I'd say over the last 10, 12 years, just trying and doing different things and seeing what I want to get out of it. Yeah, I definitely know the camera like the back of my hand now. Yeah. But yeah, it wasn't natural to me in the beginning. But I always felt like I had quite a creative eye. So I'd see the shot that I wanted to get and I could visualize it, and I knew that I wanted to do it. It was just figuring out how in the beginning.
Well, let's talk about your new adventure, and this is fresh. I mean, we are literally, I think, less than 7 days into this new adventure. Jaime, the mobile home.
Yes.
That's what you've named. It's Jaime's a she, obviously, isn't she? Has to be.
I think so.
Jaime. Yeah. No, what? Jaime could be a bloke. I don't know.
Jaime could. I feel like Jaime's not masculine or feminine. I think Jaime could be quite fluid.
Have you given it a voice yet? Because I give my car a voice.
Oh, do you? Yeah. No, I've not heard of that before.
That might sound a bit strange, but we do actually talk to each other and have arguments when the sat-nav goes a bit funny.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But go on, Jaime is your new love.
Yeah, so Jaime is our new 1994 classic Heimer.
Yeah.
So it's a motorhome that we decided we would give up our house and go and move into, just as you do. So I decided a few months ago that I was going to quit my other job. So I was working in insurance, and I've kind of been juggling both jobs for such a long time that it got to a point I thought, well, I really need to take this plunge and I really need to see what I can do with this, because I really want to. And at the same time, we were thinking about going traveling in a van. So I thought, why not combine the two, quit my job and leave my house at exactly the same time? Why not? What's the worst that can happen? So, yeah, we've been in the van for a week now, and you'd think we'd be straight off on adventures, but there's been a few hurdles to overcome first.
Yeah. One of those being an overweight van.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you find that out? Because I would naturally assume, I'll just lob a load of stuff in the cupboards and we'll be fine.
So we've gone quite minimal anyway. Obviously, going from a house to a van, we sold a lot of stuff. Yeah. What was left, we donated or gave away. So we're down to really minimal essentials. So with that in mind, I was thinking we must be okay. So we'd heard of someone who'd gone travelling and they had to get their van weighed. Because obviously if you go out of the country and you're going abroad on a ferry, I think you get weighed. So we went off to a weigh bridge locally and found out we were overweight. So they kind of weigh the front axle, the back axle, and then in total. So you kind of get a feel for where you are too overloaded. So obviously the first thought was, oh my God, what are we going to do? We've got rid of all our stuff anyway. What else can I get rid of? I'm not getting rid of my camera gear. So and that's the thing that probably weighs the most. So we've actually applied to have an up rating on our van to allow us more load. which I didn't even know that was possible either. But this company, they do it for you and they just arrange all the paperwork and then you deal with the DVLA. So yeah, this week has been a learning experience of the boring side of van life, but we need to get it right to go traveling. And yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? You don't want to be worrying about when you're on the road, because once we're out, I just want to be enjoying life.
Well, I'm very taken by van lifing, and I know when I wrote to you originally, it was like, oh, van life, I want to know more. If you looked at my YouTube suggested watch list, it's full of mobile home versus camper versus trailer videos. First of all, why did you choose what you chose? Because there is the journey and the destination, and I've heard that expression used a lot when it comes to choosing the van or the trailer, because some people choose the trailer approach. Why did you choose what you did? Because this is a mobile home is a coach-built experience, isn't it? It's larger. Yeah. I mean, the Heimers also are there. If you look them up online, they're quite bus-like. Huge left-hand drive steering wheel. It's an entirely different prospect, isn't it? You can't easily park it. So what made you choose what you chose? Yeah, so
that, like you said, that was a complete journey as well, from going into it thinking I wanted to buy a panel van.
Yep.
And I wanted to convert it ourselves because we could probably get the van quite cheap and then just do the work. And as we started looking into all of this, I realised that for something that we want to live in and be our only residence, and it could be potentially for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I really don't know. We're just going to see how it goes.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, there was this whole journey of just looking online and just figuring out, looking at the vans for sale, what we were interested in. We went to see a couple to get a feel for the size. And for what we wanted, I think a panel van would have felt a little bit too compact.
Yeah.
So someone suggested a Heimer, and at first I looked at them and I thought, no, I don't want one of those. They just look so weird.
They're big. They're big.
They're big. Well, we've got the smallest version, so there are much bigger versions.
Still big.
So we ended up having a look at this model Heimer, and at first I just thought, oh my God, this is way too big. But then once you start thinking about getting all your belongings in it, and the fact that we live with our cat and our dog, so they're coming with us. So it ended up just this process of being, I don't want a Heimer, to, I really think a Heimer's going to work.
Yeah.
Going into this and going left-hand drive, all of that kind of stuff really scared me. But after driving it for 2 days, I felt so comfortable behind the wheel. You just get used to things, don't you? Yeah. With anything in life, I think you just get on with it and you get used to it.
What about the, I've got to ask about the arrangements each night, because in Scotland there's a right to park where you like, and you can live in your van and go where you want and park up by a beautiful loch, and there we go, job done.
Yeah.
But it's not so easy in England, is it?
No, not at all. So as well as all the seascapes and landscapes I shoot, I also shoot some weddings. So I tend to only do about 8-9 a year, just a few. So actually over the next week I've got a couple of weddings, and the venues are quite good. That one of them's a farm, so they've said I could stay for a couple of nights as well. Yes. So I'm there from the beginning and I'm there at the end, which is amazing. So I think we're going to travel with my photography, and we're going to have to factor this in. So, if I've got jobs where we can park on site, or, if I'm being paid for a job and we can stay on a campsite nearby, then that'll probably be what I do, because I can go off and leave the van and leave my wife and the pets, and I can just go off and do my thing, come back. But also, like you say, I think wild camping in England isn't so easy. I think people frown upon it, and there's not necessarily the best locations for it. So our plans are to work up the country and end up in Scotland.
That makes sense.
Scotland's going to be incredible. And I visited Scotland, but we got as far as Glencoe, really. So there's so much more to see.
There's a lot more to see than Glencoe, which is lovely in itself.
Yeah, that's just like the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? Yeah. So, we're going to travel up there, probably spend most of the latter part of the year up there.
And how is that? I think you kind of alluded to it, but how's that going to work with the business and being a Fuji X photographer and so on and so forth? Because you do workshops, you do present on stage, you do portrait shoots, you do commercial shoots, you do wedding shoots. A bit of everything. Which is going to be, I think, the best way with the new life. But how are you going to weave that in?
So I think it'll probably be a benefit because I can be anywhere. So we will keep our plans quite loose so that if someone says next month or next week, can you come and do this? If I can factor that into our journey, then I will. So a lot of the commercial shoots that I do are kind of more based around my lifestyle. And I think I started shooting that way for a lot of brands, and it's just worked. So I think any brands that I shoot along the way will kind of just fall in with our journey. Weddings, we'll plan our trips around them so I can go to locations and do that. And a lot of the work that I do with Fujifilm is kind of based around the way I shoot. So there will be plenty of opportunity. And I've even been able to embark upon a new project, and I want to photograph people of the ocean that I meet along the way.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I've started the project, just photographed a couple of people locally at the moment, but I'm hoping that this is something that I can take around the UK as well. So I know different swim groups in Cornwall, Wales, a couple of people in Scotland. So if I can kind of work around the coast of the UK and factor this in, then it's going to be amazing. So I'm seeing the whole van life as, falling into place really nicely with the photography, because I can make all these things happen rather than just being in Bournemouth and things are out of reach.
Now, you're in your van as I'm talking to you, obviously. You're in Jaime now. It looks quite comfortable, actually. Then it's some nice soft seats there. That's really
is.
That's definitely the first class cabin of any train that I've been. Oh, look, and you've got the sofas behind you. It is a TARDIS in many respects, isn't it?
It really is. So we've got in the front above the
I'm having a tour.
seat.
I'm having a tour. Oh, look, the seats obviously turn round.
Right. If you see up there, the bed's up there.
The bed falls down.
There's like a little seat belt you undo and it just drops down. You lay the front seats down so it comes down quite low.
Perfect.
We've got a nice dinette, kitchen area, an L-shaped sofa at the back for chill out times. There's even a wardrobe and a bathroom as well. So the benefit of the Hymer was the fact that it's built for it and that we can have everything that we need. And there's like a huge water tank under the seat that I'm sat on now, and it holds I think it's 120 litres. So, going off grid or going on adventures for, certain times, we won't have to worry about water or...
Well, I mean, in one of the various videos I've watched, if you take the average 5-minute shower takes 40 litres of water or something, doesn't it? So you have to learn to do what's called... Is it called maritime showering or military showering, where you just...
something
you
like
turn
that.
it on only for the moment you need it, you lather yourself up with the soap and then you do... But, 100 litres is a decent size. Yeah.
It's decent size. But like you say, I'm even thinking of that. Even just washing my hands at the sink, I'm so conscious of it. I'll turn the tap on, get some water, turn it off, get the soap, wash my hands, then put the tap back on. So I'm so conscious of it now that if you hear the tap on for too long, you're like, why? You're wasting water.
Why's that tap on?
Turn it off.
But the reason I mention the comfort of it is because I'm wondering whether the workshops that you do, which I know are very popular, whether you could host these on Jaime, and whether that would be a kind of a draw, whether people would think, fantastic, Jaime's coming to town.
Yeah, maybe. I hadn't thought of incorporating Jaime in that, to be honest. That's a great marketing idea.
This is why Jaime needs a voice. It needs a character. Needs a character. On the workshops front, are you teaching with regard to underwater photography as well, so going into the water?
Yeah, I definitely can. So far, I haven't had anyone that's wanted to. Everyone that's come on my workshops has kind of made a joke out of it and saying, "Oh, I didn't bring my towel. I hope you're not going to make me get in." So it's all been shoreline based so far. But I'd be well up for that because I absolutely love it. So anybody that wants to come out with me and just have a play around, I can show them how I shoot and what I do. I'd love that.
You extol the virtues of shooting local within your and you're just about to go all over the country, but local photography, I think that's something that lockdowns and restrictions taught us, wasn't it? That actually the beauty is sometimes never more than a mile from our front door.
Definitely. And it's the way you perceive things sometimes, isn't it? Because I think I touched on earlier, you can take the same scene 100 times in the same way. But I think it was during early lockdowns as well, I'd get on my bike and cycle, and I had a little river at the bottom of my road and then a bit further in at the beach, and I would just cycle along, and I'd have my X-T3 and just my 35mm lens on, and I would literally go out at sunrise and then just snap along the way wherever I wanted to stop my bike. And it got me seeing things in a bit of a fresh way, because I wasn't then just standing there with my tripod playing with filters, playing with shutter speeds. I was literally just cycling along and taking a shot. So yeah, it just opens your eyes again to the way you see your local area.
So the adventure begins.
Yes.
You've got Jaime, you, your wife, the cat. The cat's name is?
Adie.
Dog's name is?
Buster.
Right. So you've got your menagerie on board as well with you. Where's the first adventure?
So the first adventure is likely to be Cornwall. So we're going to head over that way in August. So probably touch on Devon on the way, and then Cornwall for a couple of weeks. Yeah, and then like I say, I think September we'll head up towards the North Coast. So I'm talking at the photography show. So we've got, I think I'm doing 3 talks and 2 masterclasses. So it's going to be really full on. So I need to start preparing for that really. So we're going to do the photography show and then carry on north. So that's kind of the loose plan. But like I say, things might get thrown in the middle. Someone might message me about a shoot doing something. But the great thing is I can just be flexible and we can just be wherever and then carry on our journey. So yeah, the unknown is quite exciting.
And our thanks to Emily Endean for chatting to us. And we'll have links, of course, to her website on the show page today. Right, back to your questions. Last part of the show before Kev jets out to join his John Cicadas. They're very, very, very loud. How can you hear yourself think over that, Kev?
I know.
Do they do that?
There's only one cicada in the whole of Andalusia as well. It's enormous.
Do they do that all night?
No, they don't. They do it in the day though.
Oh, right.
And then they all stop instantly.
Oh, it's about 8:05, isn't it?
Yeah, but they stop occasionally throughout the day as well. It's really bizarre because there is obviously thousands of them, and they're really noisy. And you get attuned to it, and then suddenly they stop. And because of my tinnitus suddenly goes, woohoo, silence. I'm now going to bang into your ears.
Reminds you that you've got tinnitus.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't try and parrot the cicada.
You never see them either, cicadas. You just don't. But there's thousands and thousands of them. But you would, if you looked really carefully, you'd find them. But
yeah,
they're really weird.
I love that feeling when you walk out of the aircraft and poof, you're hit by the heat.
Yeah.
Now I know if you live in a hot country, you'll be thinking, well, just another day in paradise for us. But
yeah,
but that'd
be like the first Tuesday in July, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Second Tuesday in July, whatever we had that heat wave.
That's it. Right. Okay. Questions. You go because you've got one.
I've got one question and one point.
Okay.
We'll go with the point first, and it's from Ed Mikkel. And he says, question for Neil. A few months back, you had mentioned that your eyes were bothering you when you used your computer for an extended period of time. Yeah. I don't remember you saying that, but clearly you did. I had suggested that one of the university doctors here had recommended holding a very warm cloth to your eyes in the morning and evenings to rest your eyes. Oh. Did you find any other help with the issue? Photography is a little tough when you start losing your eyesight.
Well, I don't like to think I'm losing my eyesight. I have noticed, Kev, sometimes during the night, it gets very stingy. And I wake up with a bit of a stingy eye and I think, oh, no, stop doing that. Have you noticed that?
No.
I'm falling apart, Kev.
I get hay fever. I've only had it, I wouldn't call it bad this year, but I've only had one episode of it this year.
Right.
And that can be bothersome. But no, I don't get stingy eyes.
No. I didn't try that. I should do, shouldn't I? It seems to have... it seems to be a bit better, actually. But mind you, one thing I did do is I changed the colour temperature on the monitor that I use for emails and stuff. Obviously, I can't do that when I'm editing pictures. It needs to be true colour. But I warmed up my displays a bit, and that has helped.
There we go.
That's that one.
Display warming.
Yeah. Question?
Okay, so the question is from Isabella Goroff, I should say. I am new to both Fuji and street photography and can't wait to dive right into everything street with my cameras. I'm planning a solo photo trip to London in October to primarily photograph, but I'm open for anything photography. What are your recommendations for street photography areas? It's been over a decade since I visited London. Anything else photo related I shouldn't miss? Thanks for an awesome show. Keep the entertaining. Love, Isabella.
Well, this one bats straight to you, Kev, because with your street courses that you do in London, you will have oodles of places to go to.
Yeah, so I would say it kind of depends a little bit whether you want to be a photographer in the touristy type area or if you want to kind of hit hit the back streets and stuff. But I think if you're visiting London, I love the tourist areas. If you're visiting London and you haven't been there for a while, you want to see London as well, then the route I like to do is Trafalgar Square, down through Whitehall, past the Crooked House, which is Downing Street, by the way, over to the Houses of Parliament, over the bridge, along South Bank, past the London Eye, keep going along South Bank to London Bridge, have a quick gander around Borough Market, over the bridge into the city, St Paul's. You can go over the Millennium Bridge if you wish to come back a little bit, into St Paul's, turn right at St Paul's, go into the city, hang around Liverpool Street, that kind of area. And then if you're still going, then you can even move further across from there and go to Shoreditch, East End of London. That's a good, honest route for tourists that will give you interesting photos. Otherwise, you could I would stay away from places like Soho and stuff like that, to be honest with you. Chinatown, I mean, they're interesting places. Don't not go and visit it, but don't expect to get killer street photos there, because it is literally packed full of people wandering around with selfie sticks and stuff like that. But if you just go a little bit north, you can end up in like Seven Dials, that kind of area, go across to Wardour Street, up through Wardour Street, and all of those kind of back areas of kind of Belgravia and stuff like that. They are silent. It's really, they're great, those streets. There's hardly any traffic goes through them, very quiet, and they have some wicked shops and stuff like that. If you get across the Denmark Street and look at all the guitar shops, see where the Sex Pistols lived. There's just loads and loads and loads. And all of that entire area I've just spoken about is, I think, probably less than 2.5 square miles, maybe.
And
if you include Shoreditch.
If you want to get on the tube, you could go down to Sloane, couldn't you? And because along Chelsea Road, or was it
Mayfair, you can go across there. That's if you want to head west, you can kind of do that. Or you go south of the river, past Waterloo, go down. If you keep going, or you can do it from London Bridge, just keep going south and you'll end up in Elephant and Castle. And from there, you'll end up in Clapham and kind of the burbs, if you like. And if you go down kind of that direction, you can go to Electric Avenue. There's a lot of good markets and everything like that kick around. I think they have a market there every day. I think don't go all the way to Electric Avenue to find out.
Kev, you were wrong.
There's no markets there anymore.
I tell you what, a nice quietish place to photograph, but there's always quite interesting, considered people, is the Tate Modern, because you're allowed to photograph in there.
Yeah.
And I've always found that photographing behind things, particularly when you have those rooms full of art exhibits, is quite an interesting proposition, isn't it?
And it's a wonderful building, brutalist architecture, and you're right, it's free to go in. It's not free to go into the exhibitions, but you can go into the building and wander around.
Well, some of the exhibitions are free, but
some of them are
always the special ones, like the Salgado one recently. That's not, is it? No. And it's got those very iconic stone stairwells, and it's got that kind of runway in the middle and everything with the bridge. Yeah, that's a great place. That's a good call. Yeah. No, Salgado wasn't there. That was the Science Museum, wasn't it? Salgado in London, anyway, at the time.
It was at the Science Museum. Although, which one did we go? I went with you to the Tate Modern to look at an exhibition, didn't I?
Yeah, I think we've been a couple of times, haven't we? And it is a great place. I can't remember. But also in the Turbine Hall, they usually have something really big and interesting to photograph in itself. They've had the moon in there, didn't they? Years ago, the sun, that big sun. So there's usually something in the Turbine Hall.
That's right. Yes, that's right opposite the Millennium Bridge, which takes you straight into St Paul's.
Yeah.
And if you didn't want to turn right at St Paul's and go to the city, you could turn left and go and look at the Royal Courts of Justice. And if there's some bad boys getting in trouble there, then you'll usually see journalists and all that kind of stuff outside.
On their ladders.
Yeah. And then if you keep going, you'll go up the Strand, and then you'll have the Savoy, and you'll end up back on Trafalgar Square again.
Now, that sounds like it's something that's going to make you very, very hungry and thirsty. Where would you eat, Kev?
Well, so there's a couple of very nice hidden places that you could try. There is I can't remember what it's called now. So on Trafalgar Square, there is the Crypt Cafe, which is underground. It's actually underneath St Stephen's Church.
Yeah.
So you'll see the big church in the corner. So don't go to Costa and all of that kind of stuff. Just there's next to the church is what looks like a glass dome.
Yeah.
And descend the steps and you'll go into a crypt. It's beautiful, and if it's hot, it's always cool in there.
Yeah.
You can get yourself a alcoholic beverage, or you can get yourself a sausage roll, whatever, and everything in between. Alternatively, if you are on the South Bank and you can't be facing the crowds and all of the stuff that goes with that and the prices, there is a set of green stairs that look like, and I always thought took you to the car park at the top of the South Bank Centre, but no, it's a garden terrace pub.
Ooh,
so head up those stairs,
nice,
and you'll find a nice seated area. It's always quiet. But yes, as you're coming to London, be very, very much ready to be shocked at the prices if you were here 10 years ago.
Yeah, but of course the pound has weakened now. It's only worth 22p against most things. So
well, that's true.
So in that respect,
that's true.
Have a party. Oh, there is another place. If you really want to push the boat out, I looked this up quickly. It's at 41 Dean Street, and it's called Duck Soup. It's a bit alternative, but it's amazing.
Duck Soup. That's the name of the restaurant.
That's the name of the restaurant. It's one of these really cutesy restaurants. Not many covers inside. You can sit up at the bar and have food then. The menu is constantly changing. It's a surprise every time you go in. And the people are really, they're just so knowledgeable because they're young foodies that work in there. They love it. It's a brilliant place.
Every time I go to Dean Street, I always want to do the theme that all the cinemas used to do.
Yeah, remember that? It was Pearl and Dean, wasn't it?
Pearl and Dean, yeah.
Pearl and Dean. Right, question. Have we got time for any more questions, Kev? Must be nearly time for you to get on your airliner, surely.
I'm just seeing. I've got a quick question.
Yep.
Graham Harris. A quick question for you, gents. Q being not about Q quick, but the Q menu.
Right.
I've just bought an X Pro 3 and was pleasantly surprised how customizable the Q menu was compared to previous cameras. I've put 8 options on mine with my most used functions like face detection, self-timer, and film simulation. How much have you customized your Q menu and also the My Menu function?
I have done the My Menu, yes, but not the Q, no.
So, yeah, this is one of the things I do like about the XH2S, and it's the first time I've ever really set up the Q menu because obviously it's like less things controllable.
Yep.
And yeah, it's fully customizable. You can even change the background colors of it these days and the size of the letters and everything. The My Menu button, the My Menu thing, I like the idea of it in the beginning, but I didn't like the fact that every time you turn the camera on and press menu, it took you to that My Menu rather than the last menu you were in. But that also has been fixed. So all good.
Do you think, Kev, we should have asked Andreas this? Did we actually ask Andreas this? I don't believe we did. X100V. Now that we've got the XH2S V, that on the roadmap, surely that's the next one, isn't it? And what would it be? What X100 what? We have discussed this before. I know.
I think the X100V is probably. Well, again, probably on a 3-year cycle, I would imagine. Maybe.
Well, it must be close to that now, surely.
2020, wasn't it?
Was it
X100V?
I thought it was the year BC before COVID.
No, I got mine during COVID. But I didn't get it at the beginning. So when was the X100V launched? 4th of February 2020.
Oh, okay. It was quite recent then, right?
Yeah. So I wouldn't expect to see one of those.
No.
Quite yet, but you're right about the V. What happens to the nomenclature?
Because it's gone.
V means fifth.
Yeah.
I reckon it's got to be called X100 IV. Boom, boom.
No, VI.
VI even.
Yeah. Bi-yearly.
X100 VI. That's going to complicate things, isn't it?
It will a bit, I think, yeah. Do you think there's ever a chance that the X100 series of cameras will ever have twin cards, 2 cards? Do you think? Maybe?
I reckon I think there's a realistic chance of that happening. I literally have no idea on this, by the way, so certainly don't quote me on any of this. I'd love to see it happen. However, I do also know for a fact, because of conversations with engineers and stuff, it would make the camera a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Bit fatter.
But probably, funnily enough, I held it the other day to a Leica M6, and it's only a little bit smaller than the M6. And I've always thought the M6 is a really lovely size camera. So even if it was just a little bit, teensy bit bigger and became the same size as an M6, whoa, that'd be lovely. Good weight. Potentials
are maybe there would be like one internal memory and one memory card, as long as the internal memory was big.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 256 gig plus, then that would be a good option as well, because that I think wouldn't need to be any size increase. But anyway, who knows? But yes, I would like it.
We shall consider. We've got one more question then. Peter from County Durham. Hi, Fuji guys.
No, that's not us.
That's not us.
No, Fuji guys are somebody else. They're official people.
He did say in brackets, I'm probably not allowed to say that. No, we're not. But you said it. So lots of people you speak to, either in person or online, says Peter, say once you've gone full frame, you can't go back. What do you both think of this? Especially as you both came from full frame, but then I guess the full frame cameras you had are quite old tech now. The newer tech full frames really pop, which is what people are talking about. What do you think? Does he do full stops? What do you think of this? And do you ever think about it, especially in your commercial and wedding work? Regards, Peter in County Durham. I've sort of come away from it, gone back, and the full frame thing in the end wasn't a thing for me, Kev. It's never been, this one's full frame. It's always been about one thing for me, and that's been skin tones. And the XH2S, amazing skin tones.
Yeah, full frame, again, it's just a choice, isn't it? I can't even answer the question. That once you go full frame, you never go back. That's just not true, is it? Loads of people, I was full frame, I went back.
But that wasn't, you never went to Fuji and back to Canon, did you? Because it became the shooting experience for you. It was all about the shooting experience, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's all about what worked and what I enjoyed. And if like I always like when people say, full frame is better, I have to think why. I would ask them, why do you think full frame is more suited to you?
Well, the first thing people will say is it's all about the bokeh. Bokeh
exactly.
chicken,
and if it is that important that you get that extra little bit of blurriness in the background, then of course stick to full frame. But that's literally the only thing. And perhaps our push, although I don't think it's relevant these days with modern tech, you might say that in low light, the noise to pixel ratio is better and stuff. But literally, again, I think if somebody started talking to me like that, I'd just turn around and walk away.
You wouldn't be that rude, Kev, surely. Oh, yes, you probably would be, wouldn't you? I'm sorry, I cannot continue with this conversation. You have bored me to death. Right, well, that's it for another month. And then when we return in September, it is now, Kev, get this right, bi-monthly means, it's not really bi-monthly because you're right, it's every other week 0.5, isn't it? Because there are 5-week things. So that's really going to confuse you, isn't it?
So we're going to do it in September and November.
So shall we just say it's every other week?
Every other week.
Isn't that a little bit more... You can wrap your little mind about that one, around that one, can't you?
Unless it's a leap year in February.
Or a leap month, even worse.
Yes.
So what are you looking forward to most of all with your hollybobs?
I'm looking forward to doing Sweet
You seem to fade out at that moment. I'm not sure why. Are we expecting lots and lots of pictures of you with, it's usually you, sun lounger, feet and beer?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the most of it. I'm not taking any stuff with me. I'm not. In the past, I used to take my drone and I did some videos there. I'm not taking anything.
You
X100.
are literally going to be naked for 1 month.
Oh, we do go to one of those beaches.
Do you? Have you ever done the naked bathing, Kev?
Well, I think that's a conversation for another time.
I think
it's very popular in Andalusia.
I'm
let's
sure
just say
it
that.
is. Yeah, Kev, with all his cacks off.
Don't be rude.
I do apologise. Right, that's it for another month. Then we will see you in as all the scores go back and we go to our every other week show. And have a lovely holiday, Kev. Have a super time. Stay clear of those man-eating cicadas, whatever you do. See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.
The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.